It's time to talk about the worst games of the year yet again. This year we're keeping in theme with last year's. We'll start with something that's still fun, but maybe a bit disappointing, maybe even a little trashy, all the way to the really bad and creatively bankrupt titles. My only rule is no easy targets, no shovelware, and I'll continue to avoid most indie games, because there's really no expectation there. With that out of the way, let's get started with number 5. Super Mario 3D All-Stars. I thought Nintendo was going to stop being irrationally lazy this generation. I mean, don't get me wrong, we are pretty much sitting on a ton of Wii U ports for the Switch this generation, but there are core titles that are coming out, and we've gotten some decent new games in the in-between. Plus, the Wii U ports have been at least the definitive editions of their counterparts. Online for the Switch could be way better, but Nintendo has always been a single-player game-making company to me. I don't really care about that. I play online on my PC. Now, getting to the point here, Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy 1 range from being decent to fantastic titles. The problem with this collection is that it's unbelievably bare bones and lazy. It's like Nintendo goes out of their way to not tweak or improve the performance when they port over their games, when they easily could. For example, hackers have already reverse engineered Mario 64 to run at 60 frames per second in 16:9 widescreen on PC, and they ported it to Switch 2 without a hitch. And yet this official Switch port can only do 720p at a silky smooth 30 frames per second in 4:3. Sunshine fares arguably worse. While the internal resolution was bumped up a bit, in addition to 16:9 widescreen, there was code in the original game to run it at 60 FPS on the GameCube that was axed just before launch, and indeed, with a simple code entry on the Dolphin emulator, you can get the game running at 60 FPS with almost no issues. Did Nintendo bother to make Sunshine run at 60 FPS for their $60 Switch release? No, they did not. Galaxy fares a lot better, runs at 60 natively of course, and the game looks great at its upscaled resolution. Except I was doing that 6 years ago on a budget PC, and Dolphin runs amazing now on many laptops, and even high-end phones. It's not much effort for Nintendo to bump the resolution for Galaxy. The biggest insult, though, has to be the handling of Sunshine. Super Mario Sunshine is a game that Nintendo has not cared about doing anything with since release. A game that needs a remake, or at least to be fixed on its own, not thrown in warts and all in a half-assed collection. The vanilla game on the GameCube just isn't very good, and it's easily the weakest game in the series, with very little done to this port on Switch. And I say this as someone with the strongest nostalgia goggles for the GameCube's library, particularly Sunshine. Mods like Super Mario Sunburn have made the game a lot better. Its aesthetic and themes beg for a remaster, or a remake, not a half-assed port. Even a simple tweak could have made the game run at 60, and they probably could have fixed any of the issues that come with that. The Mario 3D collection might be a collection of good games, but it's just another hack job with a Nintendo tax. A poor value considering the flawed Sunshine and the fact that 64 is playable on your netbook and it will run better. Galaxy is the only real value here, and the whole package at that point is hardly worth $60. Once again, these are good titles, decent titles in their own right, but this collection, released this year, is just so lazy, and for that, it's easy to put this at number 5, starting with a disappointment, not necessarily a terrible video game, but still not great. At number 4, we have the SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated multiplayer mode. Well, that's a mouthful. Now you might be thinking, Jake, you covered the remaster earlier this year and you said it was great. I did. I thought the original game was handled very well. And while it was a very buggy release, it has gotten a lot better. What I didn't like was the newly added multiplayer mode that was advertised in a very skeptical manner. The multiplayer component is a local co-op wave-based horde mode, and it's extremely repetitive and boring. The whole mode can be completed in about an hour as you button mash your way through the same enemy types on the same platforms. Even though it's quite short, it's padded like crazy. It feels like torture to play, as if playing about an hour feels like 5 hours. This would be a throwaway footnote in the game, but the entire game was marketed as having some content that was cut from the original release. This was at first very exciting, as few remasters even bothered to do that. Unfortunately, what the marketing material failed to mention, intentionally I would say, is that all the missing content is in this mode you're seeing right now. And by that I mean they just took some leftover assets from the cutting room floor, and just threw them everywhere. Patrick's real dream level, the Robo-Squidward boss fight that were teased, they're not what you'd expect. It just reeks of misleading advertising overall for the single-player component, and the multiplayer feels like a massive waste of time. The multiplayer mode is almost torture to play. It's unbelievably boring with no replayability. Thankfully, it's just a mode in a much better game, and for that, it's only number 4 on my list. At number 3, we have Disintegration. From the co-creator of Halo comes one of the most repetitive and mechanically non-functional games I've played all year. A game that doesn't even try to get anything right. It's an RTS FPS hybrid, but it's more of a squad tactics game while you have a bird's eye view in the sky, piloting a drone, telling your squad mates what to do. It almost reminds me of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter at times, except Graw 1 and 2 were great games with great squad AI. The squad AI in this game doesn't function. They don't even take cover where they're supposed to, often getting nailed right out in the open by enemy fire. The weapons you utilize are terrible, they have no kick, and you have a lacking set of mechanics to keep things interesting. For the most part, you're just stuck with float around and scan objects or shoot the same waves of enemies over and over again, with the same boring, terrible weapons. The story is filled with annoying and cliché characters, and it never held my interest once while playing. The multiplayer, the only half-decent thing about the game, was shut down months after release because no one was playing it. At full price with microtransactions out of the gate, you have to wonder what the people making this game were thinking. Nothing about this game works how it should in general, and if it does, it's either a brain-dead RTS or an incredibly repetitive FPS. Take two genres that have done well together to make an interesting hybrid? No. Just make them as safe and as boring as you possibly can. Easily number 3 on my list. Absolutely devoid of fun. At number 2, we have Fast and Furious Crossroads. I haven't played a game like this one in a while. Usually I get games that are just boring. I don't get something that looks this bad, plays this bad, or crashes this often, especially at this price point. Normally these types of licensed games get dumped on mobile devices and are riddled with microtransactions to make a quick buck, but every now and then we get a gem like Fast and Furious Crossroads that just slips right through the cracks. This game is terrible. The first mission actually has a semblance of fun, it's just completely busted because of how bad the controls and physics are. But then you keep playing, and then you just get boring, repetitive, driving missions in between banal and vapid cutscenes. You know how in GTA you would drive to your mission objective sometimes? Imagine that, but without any of the entertainment on the way there, like the good character banter, or the radio, or the story, or the gameplay, or the anything, really. Driving sucks. It feels like you're driving on ice most of the time. The physics in general are horrendous. The story is sleep-inducing. The gameplay is just a chore at times, and busted at others. When it comes to gameplay, you're usually driving around doing the most mundane tasks, like offloading vehicle hauls or following traffic laws to not arouse suspicion. And that's when the game isn't bugging out or crashing. Did the developers not even read the title of the fucking game? It's called Fast and Furious. Nothing about this is fast and or furious. Even when you do the intense driving missions, the physics are so broken it's really hard to enjoy anything, and the aging graphics really don't help either. The game looks like a 360 title, yet it asks for the full price of $60 and it offers a season pass. A dead multiplayer, no racing wheel support, and a 3-hour-long campaign that mainly consists of unskippable cutscenes are the tip of the iceberg for this absolute failure of software. Even though it can be hilariously bad to a point of enjoyment, it's still number 2 on the list because those moments of entertainment are rare and hardly worth the price of admission, as you'll be snoozing through the game's aforementioned unskippable cutscenes, mundane driving segments, and awful presentation. The only reason it's not number 1 is that while it's a terrible game, there was some fun to be had in its awfulness, fleeting as it is, and ultimately, it will be forgotten with time. It's also not so ungodly bad that it caused permanent damage to previous iterations. With that being said, I think we all know what's coming next. Hey guys, sorry to cut the video off here. We are going to talk about the final game in the next video, and that is because, you know, I wanted it to be maybe like a 5 or 8 minute video, kind of long, and then just supplement that to, you know, the rest of this video. So it would be like under 20 minutes, but now it's looking like it's going to be 15 minutes just dedicated to this game, and yeah, I know that's kind of scummy for me to do this, but it'll be worth it. I'll have more time to focus on this last part and really just get into it, because this game, man, this fucking video game. Now, I'll give you a little spoiler here. I did cover it on the channel. And some of you who have known me for a while probably know what it is. It's not a big deal if you do discover it, because the video is going to have a little bit more substance to it than this one did. Oh my god, man, I'm just... Ugh, it's just so bad. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. Part 2 will be out before the end of the month, I promise. I just want to make sure I get it right, and I'm kind of pushing a deadline here. I got a lot of other stuff I'm working on, including a new job, which is, you know, that's going to take priority. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel over the years, and I'll see you next time, hopefully soon. I'm out.